The most fertile soil is the topsoil where we grow the food. As long as you are eating food, you are involved in agriculture. We don't need the drought resistant crops. We need the drought resistant soil. Soil is the largest carbon sink. So when the soil is degraded, when the soil is bare and compacted, when the soil is not functioning as a living entity, there will be no evapotranspiration process and it will directly affect the small water cycle. Soil is the living skin of the earth. So a healthy soil means healthy plants, healthy human beings. And remember, soil is the largest and cheapest water tank on the earth.
As the world grapples with the climate crisis, healthy soils are increasingly being recognized as part of the solution. Hello and welcome to Front Seat to Climate Change. I'm your host, Mahin Azam Khan. Today we're turning our attention to a resource that quite literally lies beneath our feet, yet is often overlooked in discussions about climate change, food security, and sustainable development: soil. Healthy soil is the foundation of life. It supports agriculture, stores carbon, filters water, sustains biodiversity, and plays a critical role in maintaining healthy ecosystems. In Pakistan, where agriculture contributes significantly to the economy and supports the livelihoods of millions of people, the health of our soil is directly linked to food security, economic growth, and climate resilience. Yet, soil degradation is becoming an increasingly serious challenge across the country. Deforestation, overgrazing, unsustainable farming practices, erosion, and the growing impacts of climate change are placing immense pressure on our soils, reducing their productivity and threatening the long term sustainability of our agriculture systems. As the world grapples with the climate crisis, healthy soils are increasingly being recognized as part of the solution. They can help restore carbon, improve water retention, reduce the impacts of droughts and floods, and strengthen the resilience of both communities and ecosystems. To help us better understand the importance of soil health, the challenges Pakistan faces, and the practical solution Pakistan needs to restore and protect this vital resource, today we're joined by Liaquat, who will help us unpack these issues and explain why healthy soils are essential for Pakistan's future. Hello, Liaquat Saab. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Mahi.
To begin with, I think it's very important that we understand what we're talking about, when we use the word soil and why it matters so much. So, what is soil and why is it important for life in agriculture in Pakistan?
Once again, thank you, Mahin, for inviting me and providing me the opportunity to speak from your platform. Soil is the living skin of the earth. 95% of our food, what we eat here, the food, 95% of it comes from the soil. So a healthy soil means healthy plants, healthy human beings. Poor soil, poor plants, poor human beings. Poor human being mean like in the sense of health or in the sense of nutritional density of the food. So let me say that, and also 59% of living organisms on the earth is under the soil. What it means, there is more life under the soil than above the soil. These are some of the basic reasons that why soil is very important.
So, why is soil health important for human health, food security, and the economy of Pakistan?
That's a good question, Mahin. Why soil health is important? Remember, 95% of our food comes from the soil. So if the soil is degraded, if the soil is not healthy, the crop or the food we are eating, it will lack the essential nutrients. For example, well, okay, let me share you an example. You also have you observed that in the last 1 2 decades, the vitamin industry is seriously growing across the globe. Every second person is taking vitamin D, vitamin E, blah blah. Why our soil is no longer having the micronutrients essential for soil health, plant health, and the human health. Let me give you an example here. A particular soil growing oranges or apples is deficient in calcium. The tomorrow the apple and orange is growing in that soil, they will remain deficient in calcium. So when the end consumer consume those apples and oranges, they will also be deficient in calcium. So what it means, if we want to improve the human health, first we have to ensure all the essential nutrients in the soil, so that they will reflect in the crop, and at the end they will come to the food which we eat. This is one of the reasons soil health is very important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for explaining that to us. So, when we talk about soil health, we're really talking actually, much more about agriculture alone. That's what I've gathered. We're talking about nutrition, we're talking about livelihoods, economic stability, and ultimately, the well being of millions of people, who are based in that particular country as well. So, what is the connection between soil degradation in Pakistan and the global climate crisis?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, there is something called small water cycle. When I say climate crisis, normally one factor is the water crisis. And remember, soil is the largest and cheapest water tank on the earth.
Hmm,
So,
interesting.
what we call the small water cycle, yeah, 40 to
Yeah.
45% of rainfall,
Mm,
it comes from the small water cycle. When I say small water cycle, it means it is coming from the evapotranspiration through the plants. In the layman language, we call it sweeting of the plants.
yeah.
There was an old school of thought, rain leads to vegetation. But the new school of thought that vegetation leads to more rain.
Yeah.
So when the soil is degraded, when the soil is bare and compacted, when the soil is not functioning as a living entity, there will be no evapotranspiration process, and it will directly affect the small water cycle. What it means, 40 to 45% rainfall will decline.
Absolutely. That's an important point because, climate change and soil degradation are often discussed as, separate issues. And in reality, like you just mentioned, that they, influence one another in ways that, many people may not fully be aware of. And of course, like you mentioned, that, there will be a decrease in rainfall. And that's something that we have noticed, in the recent years. And we've also, noticed erratic weather patterns, erratic rainfall patterns as well. So ultimately, what we are seeing is that everything goes back to the health of the soil and everything is linked to the soil. That's
True.
interesting. So, what do you think are the major causes of soil degradation in Pakistan, such as, maybe deforestation, overgrazing, and poor farming practices?
One of the fundamental reasons, yeah, I see, yeah, the way we are teaching agriculture, more particularly the agronomy. Agronomy is about the crop production. So the way we are teaching agronomy and the way we are practicing agronomy is not sustainable.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
current the agriculture practices are the agriculture which we teach in universities and colleges. Yeah, it's more about the soil chemistry,
Mm,
not about soil biology and soil physical properties. So what it means, we have to promote soil as a three-leg stool: soil biology, soil chemistry, and soil physical properties. The challenge in conventional agriculture is its total focus is on soil chemistry, which is in regenerative agriculture we call it the poisonous chemistry. So this is one of the challenge, yeah, which is killing the life on the earth and life in the soil. One of the challenges, this one. And secondly, most of our farmers and the food growers, yeah, they are educated by agro input suppliers, the people who sells chemical, the people who are in the business of agro inputs. They are the one educating the farmers. Now the common understanding is that if I have a agrochemical shop and my primary purpose is to sell the chemical to the farmer, either it is fertilizer, fungicide, insecticide, blah blah, which is increasing the cost of production, and at the same time it's increasing the dependency of the soil on the outside feeding from the outside, feeding from the outside. So the soil is no longer functioning by itself. And another key challenge, you see, that because of this poisonous chemistry, we have seen in last some decades, the chronic diseases in human beings are increasing a lot. Either it is diabetes, either it is cardiac diseases, or other chronic issues. It's because there is a lot of chemical ingredients we are applying in the soil, which the crop is taking, and we are ending up consuming through our food.
Absolutely, I think some of the major causes of, soil degradation in Pakistan are deforestation, overgrazing, and poor farming practices because deforestation is, being practiced in Pakistan a lot, and we are not focusing on farming practices as well because we're not making, the common farmer aware of efficient and more climate resilient practices. And, unfortunately, many of these pressures are becoming increasingly common across the country, particularly as, population growth and resource demands, they continue to rise, right? So it brings me to my next point, which is that why is soil degradation becoming a serious issue in Pakistan, especially in rural and agricultural areas?
Okay. Mahin, what you raised, that it's very critical point, a very important point. I always say to farmers or the audiences, wherever I get opportunity to speak about the soil health, yeah, soil temperature for plant is as important just like your body temperature for you. Mahin, when your body temperature increase, you suffer from fever, flu, cough, and other symptoms. So when soil temperature increase, plant face vegetative and reproductive stress, which will directly affect the plant health. And at the end, it will reduce the nutritional density. It will decline the per acre yield of the crop. Now, how we control the soil temperature, and it is directly related to the soil degradation, which you mentioned earlier. The living roots on the soil are very critical.
Yeah.
When there are living roots in the soil, they hold the soil. And when they hold the soil, also they control the soil temperature. The direct sunlight to the soil and direct rainfall on the bare soil both are poison for the soil.
Hmm.
When sunlight directly hit the soil, most of moisture or water in the soil it evaporates frequently. And even if you get a good rainfall in the bare soil means a soil which has no living roots. When rainfall directly hit on the bare soil, most of the water run off. The rainwater it run off. Run off means the farmer or the particular garden soil is not going to use it.
Yeah.
This is one of the reason of erosion. Now, to control erosion, we have to study the natural ecosystem. If you have been to a natural forest, Mahin, you will never see a bare soil in the natural forest.
Hmm.
It's always covered with leaves, branches, twigs, and other biomass. The bare in the natural forest. That's the ideal ecosystem which we have to replicate in our commercial farms and wherever we are growing food.
Absolutely. So I think we have established that the consequences aren't just environmental, right? They can affect agricultural productivity, household incomes, food prices, like you mentioned, and of course, the resilience of entire communities because climate change is our reality now. So coming towards the solution sides, then how does healthy soil help reduce greenhouse gas emissions and support climate action in Pakistan?
Soil is the largest carbon sink. A healthy soil can absorb tons and tons of carbon if we use it in the right way. Through regenerative agriculture education, we can teach farmers how they can take carbon from atmosphere
So
and fix
Liaquat
it in.
साहब, can you repeat that? वो दरवाजा की आवाज आ रही थी पीछे से.
Yeah, sorry, please.
Hmm.
So Mahin has to repeat the question, please. Sorry, then I'll repeat the answer.
I'll repeat it. Okay. So how does healthy soil, help reduce greenhouse gas emissions and support climate action in Pakistan?
When the soil is not healthy or where the degraded, poor or degraded soil, yeah, it release the carbon from the soil. While a healthy soil can act as a carbon sponge and it can absorb tons and tons of carbon. By implementing regenerative agriculture practices, we can take carbon from the atmosphere and fix it in the soil. Remember, carbon in the atmosphere is a greenhouse gas. Carbon in soil is organic matter. And why carbon? We are fixing tons and tons of carbon in soil As I said, 59% of life on the earth is under the soil. A majority of their life is microorganisms. So the food of microorganism is this liquid carbon which comes through the roots of the plants. What it means, if we ensure the living roots in the soil across the year, there will be continuous release of liquid carbon, which is the food for soil microorganisms. And we ensure that carbon stay in the soil. But the moment soil degradation happens, the same carbon which is under the soil, it start releasing as a greenhouse gas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's particularly interesting is that soil isn't just helping us, cope with climate change. It can also, play an active role in addressing the problem by, like you mentioned, that by storing carbon and supporting more sustainable land management practices if they're taught efficiently, to our farmers, and if we actually adopt these nature-based solutions that you mentioned. So what role does soil play in improving rainfall patterns, water conservation, and drought prevention in Pakistan? Because I believe you mentioned earlier as well that if you do not have a healthy soil, the rainfall patterns, they also decrease.
A country like Pakistan, yeah, we don't have much rainfall issue. It's about retaining the rainwater. For instance, I have seen even the farmers in Pakistan, also even in Uganda where I'm working, yeah, you are getting a 200, 300 millimeters of rainfall today, and the very next day soil is very dry.
Yeah, yeah,
What it means, the 200 millimeter rainfall which I received today, most of it is runoff because of compacted and bare soil, and some of it has evaporated back to the atmosphere.
yeah.
Now, by improving the soil health, we can ensure that all the 200 millimeter of rainfall which I received today, it has infiltrated inside the soil and stored in the topsoil and subsoil instead of evaporation and runoff. And remember, running water, yeah, it goes with the topsoil. Majority of our food is grown in the topsoil, and the most fertile soil is also topsoil. So when the rainfall hit the soil and it will run off, it will go with the essential nutrients of the soil. So, what I'm trying to say, we don't need the drought resistant crops. We need the drought resistant soil.
Hmm.
And how we ensure the drought resistant soil? By controlling the soil temperature, by integrating animals in our commercial farming, by minimum tillage. We call it tilling as the killing. The more you till the soil, you are destroying the soil structure, you are killing the soil biology,
Yeah,
aerobic microbes, anaerobic microbes, and arthropods. And then also about promoting the polyculture. Mahin, one of the biggest challenges in our current food system, what we are doing, we are cutting our indigenous plants, bringing some exotic varieties from outside, and planting them on hundred and hundred of acres and hectares. What we call the monoculture,
yeah.
which is not in the natural ecosystem. So we have to promote the polyculture where different plant species are staying together and consolidating the ecosystem.
Absolutely. And I think, water security is becoming an increasingly important concern for Pakistan. And what you said is very fascinating because it's fascinating how something as simple as healthy soil, can influence water availability and resilience to, droughts as well. So that's something very, very interesting. And, if we start focusing on these solutions, I think we will be able to overcome these challenges. So, what can ordinary citizens of Pakistan do to protect and improve soil health in their daily lives?
That's a good question, which I also face when I speak to the public in the cities, yeah, like in Kampala or other cities. They normally tell me that, Liaquat, we are not involved in agriculture. I always tell to the people, as long as you are eating food, you are involved in agriculture. And when you are eating food, 95% of that food comes from the soil. It means we have to take care of that soil where the food is coming from. Now, what you can do as an ordinary citizen, we have to be a responsible consumer. For instance, Mahin, today you are going to a supermarket to buy an apple. Now, before buying an apple, being a responsible consumer, Mahin has to know that where this apple is coming from. And the particular farm which was growing this apple, what were their social, economic, and environmental impacts? When I say environmental impact, the farm which was growing this apple, which Mahin is going to consume, was it by utilizing too much poisonous chemistry in the soil? That poisonous chemistry kills soil biology. As I said, 59% of life on earth is under the soil. Was that particular farm, it was causing soil degradation and disrupting the small water cycles? Was that particular farm keeping the labor rights and other protecting the social structure of the society? So one thing, you can be a responsible consumer. Second thing, the youth in the towns, yeah, they see soil as a dust and dirt. So we have to educate the public that soil is something full of life, and we have to connect with the nature. We have to respect the soil in a way that we have to respect the soil in a way that we do understand that where the food is coming from. The the value chain process, yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's easy to assume that this is an issue only for government or farmers, but like you've highlighted, that there are actions that all of us can take to contribute to, healthier soils and a healthy environment. So how does soil erosion affect Pakistan's agriculture, food production, and farmers' livelihoods?
As I said, a majority of food is grown in the topsoil. When I say soil erosion, it means we are losing the topsoil. The most fertile soil is the topsoil where we grow the food. So when the soil is eroded because of it is bare, because it was not having the living roots to hold it, yeah. So when it wash off, it means the fertile soil has gone. Now the subsoil or the other soil which we are growing food, it's not very functional. What it means, it will decline our productivity per acre yield. So when the productivity decline, definitely the supply of the food will be less, and the prices will increase, which will increase the food insecurity. And that's one of the reason that soil degradation is increasing the food prices and declining the productivity.
And when we look at the impacts of soil degradation, it's often farmers and rural communities who actually face the consequences first, which makes this both an environmental and a development challenge. And in today's world, it's a survival challenge as well for communities. Um, so to just wrap up this conversation, I'd like to ask you that what policies, awareness campaigns, and practical steps are needed to restore soil health in Pakistan?
I always say a country like Pakistan, we normally don't need the climate aid here. We need climate justice.
Absolutely.
Our emissions, most of emissions here, they are coming from the global north, yet the global south is suffering a lot. So
Yeah.
one thing, we need to work at the policy level. Second thing, we need to reflect, we need to project here the problems global south, including Pakistan, is facing because of the emissions coming from the global north. Second thing, we also need to educate the laymen about the importance of soil health and its direct connection to the human health and the climate crisis.
Absolutely.
For that, again, we need to keep more workshops, seminars, conferences, not only in the rural part of Pakistan, also in the urban part. Remember, the end consumer are mostly in the urban part.
Yeah.
So if the end consumer is well aware, they will definitely go for the products
Mm.
which have grown in the responsible way.
Absolutely. And I think these are some very important recommendations that you said, Liaquat Saab. And hopefully, they help bring greater attention to an issue that often goes unnoticed, like you told us, that, how soil is so important. Despite it's important to, food systems or our environment and our economy. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for your brilliant insights, Liaquat Saab. Thank you.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Most welcome. Yeah.
Today's discussion has reminded us that soil is much more than the ground beneath our feet. It is a foundation of our food systems, a key ally in the fight against climate change, and a critical resource for sustaining livelihoods and economic development across Pakistan. As we've heard, protecting and restoring soil health requires action at every level, from better policies and sustainable agriculture practices to greater public awareness and individual responsibility. Investing in healthy soils today can help secure our food supply, strengthen climate resilience, conserve water resources, and support future generations. We hope today's conversation has provided a deeper understanding of why soil matters and why its protection must be a priority for Pakistan's sustainable future. Thank you for tuning in to Front Seat to Climate Change. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember that meaningful climate action often begins with the resources we value the least but depend on the most.